Fabriano in Acquarello 2021 today brand news with Daniel Smith.
Welcome everybody. I am honored to present my CEO John Cogley and Catherine Taylor from famous brand Daniel Smith Extra Fine Watercolor. Thank you everybody, and go John.
Okay, well, thank you Giovanni. Thank you Letizia. It's good to be here. Having missed Fabriano. Look forward to seeing it next year. For all of you that are my friends, welcome. For any new friends, welcome as well. So I'm the owner of Daniel Smith. At Daniel Smith, we make watercolors, among also oils. And so I'm going to be going over those today. And if you have questions, please go ahead and ask. I'm going to point the camera down so you can see this. So we make 261 watercolors. 261. I'll tell you the types that we make. We also make Primitech line, which are made from minerals. And then we have a luminescent line. And I'll show you all of these colors today rather quickly. We also have sets from various artists. And I'll show you those as well. So I have been with the company for 34 years. It's been wonderful. Working with artists is wonderful. Working with colors is wonderful. Couldn't imagine a better job to have. When we look at colors at Daniel Smith, everything that we're focused on is right here. It's the artist. All of our processes in making paint start and end with the artist. Catherine and I travel the world. We want to hear what artists are saying, what tools they need in their toolbox, what colors, if they were available, would make creativity easier. So we're always starting and stopping with this right here, which is the artist. Whether we use inorganic paint or synthetic paint or natural pigment, it's all the same process. How we mill it for consistency and size. We want to get the same refractive index, so it's always the same amount of light. The interesting for us, having a full laboratory and multiple chemists, is we test all of our pigments for light fastness. Not only do we get that from the companies that we buy from, but we have a xenon photometer, and we will test light fastness for every batch, every pigment that we use. We also check for continuity of color using a photospectrophotometer. So there are a lot of colors. If you go to the Daniel Smith website, you can read, this is downloadable. You can read the story of every single color. It's from an artist's perspective, so it tells you about the color and how the color can be used. And it's every single color that we have. So really great site to go look at, danielsmith.com, and this information is available. Another way to look at colors, artists I have found are not only very visual, but very tactile. And an easy way to look at 238 of the 261 colors is this 238 dot card set. The Daniel Smith colors wet out very quickly. For example, if we look at CAD-U right here, and we wanted to see what it looks like, I can explain what it looks like, or you could paint it out. And that's the best way because you can actually see it. You can do a small painting with it to see what that looks like. It's just very, 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 very useful. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it's just so easy to be able to wet out the color and actually see for yourself how it behaves, whether it granulates, whether it's transparent. You can actually see the quality of the paint instantly. There's enough to do a small painting, a very small painting, but certainly way more than enough to be able to, for yourself, see and feel the paint. So it's a phenomenal tool to have available. We have what's called the Primitech Paints, and they're made from minerals. And this is kind of what they look like. I'll show you quickly. So this, for example, is black tourmaline. The beautiful thing about the Primitechs is the amount of granulation that they have. They're imperfect. They're just not, they're absolutely all the same size, all the same shape, all the same weight. There'd be no granulation. And that's the beauty of the Primitechs, is that they're imperfect. This, for example, is serpentine. Fuchsia, which has a lot of mica inside of it, mica. Tiger's eye. So this is the mineral tiger's eye. This is what tiger's eye looks like. This is what we use to make this. Green apatite. This is green apatite. That's what the mineral looks like. So it granulates very, 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 very beautifully. High granulation. Hematite, another one that has fantastic granulation. Zoisite. So quite a few of the Primitechs. We have the rhodonite, for example, which is a semi-precious stone used to make jewelry, etc. And then one of the first minerals we ever used, which was the lapis. Lapis, ultramarine, and French ultramarine are the synthetic forms of lapis. So this is kind of where a lot of the, certainly the aquamarine started from, the lapis. This is from Chile. Comes from Afghanistan or Chile. That's from Chile. So this brochure right here, which is also available online, allows you to read about the Primitechs. You can see the Primitech. This, for example, is bronzite. You can find out a small story of where it's from. Many of these are from South America. One from Russia, which is the mummy bauxite. This is what the mineral looks like, what the pigment looks like, and what the drawdown looks like. And then the story of where it's found. So if you're interested, this is online, and you can go ahead and look at that. It goes over all the different minerals that we use to make our Primitech paints. We have some sets that we're just bringing out. They're from fabulous artists. This is from Malin, and Malin is from India. I'm sure at Fabriano, many of you know of him. He's a phenomenal artist. And these are some of the colors within this particular set. This set is 5 mils, which means it's made of tubes like this, the 5 mil tube versus the 15 mil tube. But it's a lot of paint to be able to use. So it has the Hansa yellow light. It has the phthalo green. This is the yellow shade. It has the phthalo blue, the green shade. It has the pyrrole scarlet. Pyrroles are very bright. and it has the alizarin crimson. And that's the Luminescent. We have the Nicholas Lopez set. I watched Nicholas's presentation yesterday. Very fun to watch. Very interesting. So within Nicholas set, Nicholas Lopez set. I'm sorry, that's in reverse. Nicholas has the Bloodstone, which is a Primitech. He has the Piemontite, which is another Primitech, very beautiful. When we were in Portugal, this color couldn't be kept in stock. It sold so much. Lunar Black, which I'll be showing you today, it's a very interesting color, and that it's a synthetic pigment that has high granulation. Lunar Black is the same thing as Mars Black, so Lunar Black and Mars Black are the same. Lunar Blue, another lunar color. High granulation, high granulation, high granulation, and high granulation. This effect is called granulation. Moonglow. So Moonglow is another granulation color. It's a very pretty color. It's made up of 3 pigments: anthracanoid red, viridian, and ultramarine blue, all mixed dry and then put into gum arabic. So it counts really as, even though it's 3 different pigments, it's 1 color. So you can mix it with another color and another color, and you still won't get mud. So very, very good choice. Cascade Green. Cascade Green is very unique in that it's a co-precipitated pigment. It's 2 pigments that are locked together, and when water's added, they break apart. So you get this yellow, you can get the yellow, and right next to you can see the blue. But the more you play with it with water, the more these two pigments break apart, and you get different color variations within your painting. So, very interesting. Chinese white. So Chinese white tends to be a warmer white. He has Payne's gray. Payne's gray can be used almost as a neutral. So Payne's gray. Ultramarine blue, probably my personal favorite. Very plain, but very beautiful. So ultramarine blue. And his last is lavender. And so that makes up the Nicholas Lopez set. If you've ever seen Nicholas or gone to his site, he does just beautiful things with blacks and colors, just beautiful work.
John, greetings from YouTube chat channel from Agnes Getz, Johnny Patramanis, Raffaele Ciccaleni, Caroline Dibble, and Carsten Weyland from Germany, Australia, and Arte Miranda from Spain.
Oh, very good. I'm glad they can all make it. This is Jean Haynes. Jean Haynes is out of the UK. And this set is called Green with Envy. So here Jean has picked green colors. She's picked the phthalo green. This is the blue shade. Excuse me. Undersea green. Serpentine. So Caroline from Australia. Serpentine comes from Australia. Very pretty color. Again, high granulation. Jadeite. Jadeite comes from British Columbia, our neighbor to the north, again, granulating, and green apatite, probably one of the most granulating colors. So Jean Haynes, UK, fantastic. She has the green apatite, the jadeite. Thomas Schuller also loves the jadeite, the serpentine green, the undersea green, and the phthalo green blue shade. And those are the 3 newest sets. So I want to show you the colors come in several forms. One is the 15 mil. That's what a 15 mil. This is Hansa Yellow Medium. That's buff titanium. And this is burnt sienna. Those are all 15 mil tubes. Some of them come in another size, and that's the 5 mil. So there's the 5 mil Hansa. There's the 5 mil buff. And there's the 5 mil burnt sienna. Another form that some come in, and this is all on the color chart, it'll say what forms the paint comes in, is the stick. So here is the stick in buff titanium. Here is the stick in Hansa Yellow. And here's the stick in the burnt sienna. And lastly, some are in pans. So there it is in half pan. And here's the buff titanium in half pan. And there is the burnt sienna in half pan. So a question I'm asked when I travel is, John, what's the difference? These all have the same exact pigment. Same pigment in all the different forms. It's the same pigment. The difference is water and the amount of water. There's more water in the tubes because they're in aqueous solution. Then the stick has a huge amount of pigment to be able to hold it together. It's not a crayon. There's no clay. There's no wax. This is just pure pigment. It's like holding a pan in your hand. You can draw with it. You can paint off the ends with it. I'll show you in a couple minutes. And then there's finally the half pan, and this has the least amount of water. So the only difference between these is the amount of water. This is incredibly easy to travel with, easy to do plein air with. This is also very easy to travel with, easy to do plein air with. These are phenomenal, and I only say easy to travel with because of the different security levels we all have to go through now. These are no problem. These aren't really much, except depending on who the TSA person happens to be. And so we've all been there. All right. So those are the different ways that you can get the paint.
Another greeting from YouTube, from Angela Barbie from Spain, Raul and Praful Udekar from India, Joseph Whale from Berlin, Germany.
Oh, awesome. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you.
And Luciano Colucci from Fuerteventura, Canary Islands.
So let me show you kind of quickly. I'm asked about this a lot. You can take it off. You can take the paint off the end of the stick like this. These sticks are sold as, they're less cost than a Series 1, which is the least expensive tube. And yet they're made up of Series 1, 2, and 3 watercolors. You can also draw with it and then wet that out. I know Giovanni does this sometimes. You can also do wet into wet. And you can decide how much of the paint you're going to take off. That's really at your discretion. Okay. This kind of gives you a look. There we go. This is the half pan. This is the tube, and this is the stick. This right here is just, when I went down, I wanted to show you that I was using the stick. This is what it looks like wet. So all three, same exact pigment, just different amount of water. Same thing for the burnt sienna. There we go. Same thing for the burnt sienna. Half pan, tube, stick. And lastly, for the buff titanium. Half pan, tube, and stick. Okay. So the other thing that is very interesting is, and I think Nicholas was showing this yesterday, and that's the watercolor ground. And we have the watercolor ground both in 4 ounce and in some we have it in 16 ounces. And the watercolor ground, for example, this right here is the pearlescent. You can kind of see it. Pearlescent would be the same as this right here. That's pearlescent. So this is pearlescent. This is Mars Black. Again, Mars Black and Lunar Black are the same thing. So this is Mars Black. This is Titanium White. Titanium White. This is the Buff Titanium. So Buff Titanium. This one is the Transparent. And lastly, we have the Iridescent Gold. So what is a watercolor ground? A watercolor ground, you could take this and put this on anything. You can put it on, I could paint this cup. I could put it on this cup. I could put it on cardboard. I could put it on plastic. I could put it on stone. I could put it on anything. It's like a paper in a bottle. And in 24 hours, it'll cure. And once it cures, you can now use watercolor on top of that. So you can put it on top of your monitor. You can put it on your door handle, your car. It doesn't matter, anything. And then you can actually do watercolor on top of that. So it allows the watercolor artist to start doing things in 3 dimensions, which oil color artists and acrylic artists have always been able to do. So it really opens up your toolbox. The transparent, I get asked about this quite a bit. The transparent doesn't mean it looks like glass. It doesn't look like glass. Transparent means you can see through it. So if I put this on top of this label, you'd be able to read everything it says underneath. And then the titanium white, the interesting thing about the titanium white, it's really like a, it's a way to fix your paintings if you want. If you have something and you've done an area and you say, oh, I wish I could change that. You could put that titanium white over the top of that area. You can let it dry and you could repaint. So it's also a way that you can repair a painting versus throw that paper or that painting away. This allows you to actually repair it. So again, those are the 6 watercolor grounds. They're very, very interesting. They're very fun. It really allows has more and allows greater creativity. The other thing that we have is the masking fluid. And the masking fluid, I've been showing this during my YouTube presentations. You can pull it off after 45 days very easily. You can cut the tip. It comes out by capillary action. And then additionally, there's small pipettes. These are pipettes. Cut those off to any size you want. There's 6 of them in the bag. There's 6. Cut them to any size you want and just put that on the end. And now you can have various sizes. You can have very, very, very small. You can have larger, all depending on where you want to cut it. So you're kind of in control of what you do with that. Something I'm asked about a lot is, can I use the Daniel Smith paint to have it look more like a pastel? And you can. You can use a titanium white or a Chinese white or a buff titanium to have it be more like a gouache by increasing the opacity. That's something you can do. And you can also, by putting more water with the paint, allow the white of the paper to come through, which makes it look more like a pastel. And this is something Giovanni and Lattice have done that is really nice on their site. So very, very pretty. So can you do that? Yes. You can make it like a pastel depending on how much water you add to the paint. It's a lot of flexibility because it's they're very, very strong pigments. So the one thing that we've been talking about that gets asked quite a bit is about staining. So when we talk about staining, and the staining characteristics are listed on the watercolor chart, and essentially what that just means is, can you take the paint up? Can you pull it up? If it's non-staining, you can pick it all the way up. If it's low staining, there's a little bit of pigment that stays behind. If it's medium staining, more pigment stays behind. And if it's high staining, you can't take it up. That's how staining works, and that's how we have it within our color chart. The other one is opacity. And for opacity, this is white, this is black. It's how much of the paint can you see over, for example, of black. If it's transparent, you see all black. And that's because the color doesn't cloud this over. If it's semi-transparent, for example, this is permanent red, it's semi-transparent, you can see a little bit of red goes over the top of the black. So it's called semi-transparent. And then for chromium green, just a lot of it goes on top of the black. So that's considered opaque. So the reason that's really essential is, as watercolor artists, you're always working from, you're always looking at light. And when you get to opaque, you're done your story. Because once you get to opaque, that's it. The story's done. So you're always going from lights to darks. It's the beautiful thing that I so enjoy about talking to watercolor artists. Everything they look at is a puzzle, because when they look at a person, when they look at a barn, when they look at a tractor, in their minds, they're tearing it apart and they're putting it in pieces from light to dark, because your painting has to go from light to dark. Once you're at opaque, the story's done. That's what makes watercolors very, very unique. If I was an oil colorist, I could put white, I could put black on top of it. I could wait till that dries and put green on top of that, wait till that dries and go back and put white on top of that. That's not the case with watercolor. Watercolor, you're always thinking from light to dark. It's one of the beautiful things of having that color chart in your toolbox, because over a cup of coffee, you can learn why you are picking out certain colors, which is really important. It also comes insofar as the color chart and all that information right here in the legend. The legend goes over all of that, and you can download. This is flippable and downloadable on our site. So you can see all the information. And for every single color, it'll give the common name. For example, this is buff titanium. It'll tell you what it's available in, and then it'll give you its characteristics. So the first one is its light fastness, then its staining, then does it granulate, and then its opacity. So those are really interesting. I'm asked quite a bit, for example, John, why do you have so many yellows? So if you look, the yellows kind of start here with nickel titanate, and they go all the way across. Here is, they go all the way across, just lots of yellows. And the reason is they're all different. If you look at the color chart, you'll see some are granulating, some are transparent, some are semi-transparent. And those are really important. If you're a realist artist, you may not want any type of granulation within your painting. So you would look at a yellow you would look at a yellow that is non-granulating. If you're an artist that wants to do a lot of layers, then you're going to want to have something which is transparent, because that's going to allow you to give more layers than something which is semi-transparent. And certainly something, for example, as the bismuth, which is opaque. This is a yellow that you would use last, because you need to be at the end of your story before you get to opaque, because that ends your story. So that's why there's so many of a particular color. So these are lunar colors, and these are synthetic, but they're also very granulating. So they're beautifully granulating colors. And I did want to show you so these are some of the blacks that we have, and two of the grays. And the two grays, these two grays, are Alvaro Castanet. And this is Alvaro's Caliente and Alvaro's Fresco. And Alvaro wanted to have a method to give to his students paint that they could quickly get to the same point that he's able to as a master. For him, for Alvaro to create these colors is, if you ever watched him, it's seconds. He's so quick, he's so fast. And but to explain that to the students every time you're doing a class takes time, and it's more efficient to use that time to show them techniques. So we worked with Alvaro, we went back and forth. It took quite a long time. And we wanted to make sure we're giving Alvaro the exact color he wanted. And so these are the two colors that were the final version: Alvaro's Caliente and Alvaro's Fresco. So another sample of that, kind of the same path, is Lauren McCracken. So this is McCracken Black. It's the newest color that we put inside of the Daniel Smith colors. And it's extremely interesting in that we went back and forth with Lauren many, many, many times to make sure that we're giving him this exact color that he wanted. We started with just some paint outs that he provided, and then we would send back to Lauren, this is what we have so far, and we were back and forth, and finally Lauren said, wow, this is it, this is what I want, this is the McCracken Black. It's a very, very interesting story behind this, and that if you ever watch Lauren's video, he goes over all the aspects of this. And it's a black that you can easily warm up and bring warmth into it. And he goes over how he does that. Or it's a black that you can cool down. So you can use it like it is. You can instantly warm it up, or you can cool it down. It's very, very unique. This particular black is made up of Prussian blue. It has Prussian blue. It has transparent brown oxide. It has carbazole violet, quinacridone red, anthraquinoid red, nickel azo yellow, and perylene scarlet. It's amazing. It has 7 pigments. It's 100 plus years, so it's a light fastness of 1. It's low staining, it's granulating, and the most impressive thing of all, it's transparent. It's made up of 7 pigments and it's transparent. That's very, 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 very unique. So this was great working with Laura. It was great working with Alvaro, great working with Jane Blondell, and coming up with colors. And the other one that we created 3 was for Joseph Zubudik. So great working with Joseph as well. They're all fantastic artists. There's a story behind all the different colors. Lamp Black, the story of Lamp Black, it was made from soot, which a light was left in a tent, a lantern. The soot would rise, they would beat it, they would collect the soot and make lamp black. So it's a very, very nice black. It's a very, very dark black. There's ivory black. Ivory black is made from chicken bones. Not ivory, so it's made from chicken bones. And then you think about ivory black, it's very warm. It has a yellowish tint to it. So it's a very warm black. So not all blacks are the same. Not all yellows are the same. Not all reds are the same. They all have a story behind them. So in the Daniel Smith colors, we have only 2 colors that are fugitive. So we have 2 colors out of 261. And one of those is the Opera Pink. The interesting thing about the Opera Pink, it's made really from 2 pigments. It's made from quinacridone magenta, and it's made with a fluorescent. So Opera Pink. And the other one is alizarin crimson. Alizarin crimson is a coal tar derivative. Professors have their students use this because it was used by the masters. They're very intelligent, very knowledgeable, and they have their students use this because the masters used it. If you didn't want to use a fugitive color, we also have a permanent version. So you can actually use the permanent alizarin crimson. See, it's very, very, they're very, very close to each other. One just happens to be 100 plus years. That's the permanent version, which is made up of a couple of high performance pigments, and then the alizarin, which is fugitive. So you could do your choice about which one you'd want to use, the permanent or the not permanent. So other family of colors that we have the other colors we have that I stopped probably 8 years ago, at least 8 years ago, were the cadmiums. I moved away from cadmiums to a cadmium U. So this was our original cadmium. And this is our cadmium U. And cadmium U just means this is not a cadmium. So we no longer use cadmiums. We came up with a method to have the same type of opacity, the same type of vibrancy by using high performance pigments. It matched what we had originally, but this is not cadmium. It's a cadmium U. This is what the yellow looks like. So this is the original cadmium, and this is the cadmium U. This is the cadmium yellow deep. This is the cadmium U. Cadmium red, cadmium. So this is cadmium red. This is cadmium red medium. So different. This is red. This is red medium. We also have the cad orange U. And these are the scarlet. This is the scarlet cad, and this is the red scarlet U. I know what you want to look down is kind of in here. Okay. So we looked at the Primitech, we looked at the general colors. We also have another set of colors that are called the luminescent. And these are the luminescent. The luminescent are all about either mica or silica. And we have what's called an iridescent. We have an interference. And we have a duochrome. The iridescent, when light comes in, it hits the mica and it bounces back. That's called reflection. Most of the colors you look at as an artist that you see on your paper when you're painting is reflection. The other is interference. When that light wave comes in and engages that particle, it bounces. That is refraction or scattering. Light comes in, hits that particle, and goes everywhere. And the last one is a duochrome. And a duochrome just is the reflection and the refraction both. Light comes in and it reflects. Light comes in and it can refract. So that's a duochrome. So let me show you what those look like. This is a duochrome. It's one pigment that can shift to multiple colors. And again, that's because we're getting both reflection and refraction. Here's an example of interference. Interference, because when it refracts, very hard to see over a light color. You could see it, but it's very light. it really takes up its own over the dark. Okay, and that's interference. Another example of interference. Very hard to see over the light, easy to see over the dark. Iridescent is reflection. Very easy to see over white, but also easy to see over dark. That's because it's reflecting. Okay, that's the iridescent. Another example of iridescent. So that's iridescent over the white and over the dark. This is the ruby. Wish my light was better. And the last one is iridescent sunstone, for example. And that's iridescent. You can see it over the light, you can see it over the dark. And this right here is a pearlescent. We have a pearlescent and a pearlescent shimmer. They're the same pigment, just different size. Sometimes this is used to put the life into an eye. Our eyes, if you look at somebody's eyes, there's always a light in our eyes. Watercolors can make that look quite dead. So sometimes one of the luminescent colors is used to give the eye life. Claudia Hernandez does a phenomenal job with the luminescent series. If you've not gone to her site, I would highly recommend it. She just does a wonderful job. So sometimes I'm asked, well, John, if I knew what the pigment number was, can I go and find the same color in somebody else's paint? And the answer to that is no. And I'll give you an example. These are 3 quinacridones that show how chemistry can change a pigment. And then I'll give you 2 that are done by size. So if we look at the Quinacridone Violet, this is PV19. PV19. Pigment Violet number 19. That's Quinacridone Violet. Quinacridone Rose is also PV19, the same exact pigment. Quin Red is also PV19, the same exact pigment. Same pigment, same pigment, same pigment. The difference is quinacridone, which means 5 rings. It's where the alpha and beta particles go on these rings, and how they move gives the different color. So just knowing it's PV19 isn't going to tell you which color you're going to get. This is similar, but these are done because of size. Ultramarine blue and French ultramarine, they're both synthetic. They're both PB29. Pigment blue number 29. The difference is because of size. The ultramarine is a smaller particle, and when light hits it, it moves toward the green or the cool. The French is a slightly larger particle, and when light hits it, it moves toward the red or the warm. That's the only difference between these 2 colors. The French ultramarine is slightly warmer. The ultramarine is slightly cooler. This is more green. This is more red. So I thought what I'd like to do now is just kind of paint some stuff out and maybe have a little fun with that. So one of the ones I really like to play with is the Cascade Green and the Lunar Black. The Lunar Black is it's a very special type of color, or certainly as a black is concerned. So let me show you. I'm going to add Hansa Yellow Medium to it. This were an ivory black, it would just cover this yellow. But if I put this yellow into the Lunar Black, you're going to see over a couple of seconds, it's really going to push that. The yellow is going to push the black out of the way, and it's going to become more and more yellow. So it's a very interesting black to play with. So while that does that, let's look at the Cascade Green. So I'm going to lay down a water line right here. And then so all I'm doing is I want it to break apart. And if I break it apart, it's going to start seeing, you'll see some blues and you'll see some yellows within the Cascade Green, because I'm going to break that co-precipitated pigment apart into its two elements. So, Giovanni, are there any questions from anybody?
Oh, yes. From Agnes Getz, you have the info like transparency on the color chart, but why not that empty round for transparent? Not on the tube, so you can see it in a WIMP. And I'm looking at my tube or French oak.
So it's about the labeling, the label. So she asked about why don't put the icon of transparency.
That is just a phenomenal question. It's a great question, and the reason is it's everything that we do on the color has to be translated into French. So there's only so much room on a label, and we also have requirements from ACMI and also from the state of California that if labeling information has to go on at a moment's notice, we need the room, and there's just not a lot of real estate. There's a little bit more real estate in the 15. There's almost no real estate in the 5. I mean, there's any smaller than this, you're going to need a major magnifying glass to be able to read it. It's just so small. So while it's a fantastic question, it is a great question. It's just real estate. There's just not enough real estate. If we put the symbol but didn't explain it, then people would see the symbol and say, well, what does that mean? So you also have to explain what the symbol means. So a great question. It is a really good question.
Okay, another question from Luciano Colucci and Canary Island. Can I show the Mayan colors?
Oh, can I show the Mayan colors?
Yeah.
I can show you the ones. Can you show me underneath those maybe? Yeah. So we did this yesterday. I can show you here what they look like. So this is the Mayan Blue Genuine. This is the Mayan Dark Blue. This is the Mayan Orange. This is the Mayan Red, the Mayan Violet, and the Mayan Yellow. So I'll hold there for a second, it'll autofocus.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes, you're very welcome.
And another greeting from Sergei Temerev from Moscow, Russia.
Okay, closer again. Missed you, missed going to seeing you in October. So
Yeah.
next year, Catherine and I have that on our schedule.
And another question from Joseph Weird. What kind of paper do you use now?
What kind of paper do you use now?
Oh, this paper right here is the, I'll show you. On the drawdowns, I use LaminaAcquarello, but this paper here is Legion Stonehenge. Legion Stonehenge Aqua Cold Press. It's 140 pound. Okay. So you can see the yellow in the Lunar Black. It just, and that wouldn't matter if any color that is, you'll be able to see it do this really neat thing with the Lunar Black. And this up here is the McCracken. That's the McCracken. Put a bunch of water into it. And if you look at our Cascade Green, you can see that yellowish undertone it has. So it has blue on the edges, but you kind of see a little bit of the yellow, and that's because that pigment's breaking apart.
Angela is saying the effect of the yellow on Lunar Black is spectacular. Thank you for showing us. And Rafael Caleni living on Lunar Heart under the Lunar Black.
Yeah, the lunars are they're very beautiful in how they granulate. They have high granulation.
Another question from Praprai. What the most granulating color from Daniel Mead? The most granulating color.
The most granulating. You know, if I was gonna, from a granulation standpoint, I would say it's gonna be Lunar Black or Green Apatite. They're both really highly granulating. Highly granulating. So Green Apatite or Lunar Black, which is kind of interesting because one is a synthetic, which is the Lunar Black, and one is a mineral, which is the Green Apatite.
From YouTube, it's all. So we don't have any other questions.
John, I have a question myself. Can I do?
Of course.
Since you seems to be one of the most interested brands on research, and actually you did a great job in the past year, and you became kind of advisor for all of us artists, suggesting a lot of solutions, but also breaking the rules to have another perspective of watercolor. I'm curious on what are your new research going to be. Can you tell us a little bit with which perspective are you investigating now?
Insofar as new colors?
Yes, colors and whatever connected to watercolors.
So the chemist, certainly Ron, the chief chemist, is always testing out new colors all the time. So long as there's a nice car industry, and Italy's making beautiful cars, and there'll be new colors. So we're always trying out what's new and what's exciting. Last week, I showed the viewers the yttrium, which is the blue out of Oregon. So looking at bringing that out, and would that be of interest to artists? The other thing that kind of looking at is powdered paint. I think there might be some interest in terms of creativity and coming out with that. So something else we're looking at.
So we will have to expect something new very soon, okay?
Oh, the only issue I have with that, Anna, is when I bring out a color, just one color, the stores have to change up to 261 spots to accommodate it. And sometimes it's going to strangle me. So, but yes, there'll be new colors coming out.
Thank you a lot, John. Thank you, Catherine, also to be always so kind. And for us, it's really a pleasure to be connected to you, because really you give us inspiration a lot.
Catherine has been fantastic in working with the artists. She loves working with the artists, coming out with new sets. So that, and the website, as you were saying, making the website more usable, more friendly for the artists. She always thinks about how the marketing, etc., can be better used for the artist. So thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate you. Thank you, Giovanni, Letizia. Thank you, everybody watching. Can't wait to see you next year. It's been agony not being able to travel and see people. So
Letizia, give us the camera where we can see each other, just so that we can hug for a moment.
okay.
Gallery hug. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. You are wonderful. So they thank you so much.
You're very welcome.